Hello, welcome to Real Guitar Live. I'm Thomas Michaud, and I am going to answer as many of your guitar questions as I possibly can. Please feel free to add questions in the chat. I'm going to start with the pre-submitted questions. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to have you here, and I'm happy to be here. Let's start with Shulamit asks, can you walk us through the circle of fifths and share the most useful ways it applies to us as guitar players? Hey, there's me, Thomas Michaud. And now I'm going to shift over to my visual of the circle of fifths. Hopefully you can still see me too. Now, I have three things that I think are good for guitar players to be able to use the circle of fifths for. And I consider it a very valuable tool, but it is more of a map, and it's not a formula or a magic bullet. So my version of the circle of fifths here shows the little arrows, which kind of, a lot of versions you'll just see these are the chords, the keys of guitar, and they're organized so that they go up by fifths. Let's see. Oh, we got graphics. Okay. So as we go up, we're going up by a fifth. C to G, D to G to D, D to A, and so on. If you go down the circle of fifths to the left, rather, you go down by fourths. Underneath is the minor key, that is the relative minor key of each of the major keys. One of the big important reasons I like the circle of fifths is it shows very quickly what chords go together in a key, what the most important chords are. So let's take, for example, the key of C. And I can look at the circle of fifths and very quickly see that the 5 chord in the key to the right is the G chord, and the 4 chord to the key is the F chord. I just go to the left and to the right. The 5 chord is always the chord that creates the tension in the key and wants to go back to the home chord. So it's a very valuable chord for a progression to keep it moving. A lot of songs are just simply the 1 and the 5 chord, the C and the G. But even more songs are the 1, 4, and 5. So you've got right here the formula for thousands of songs, the 1, 4, and 5 of a key. So let's get rid of some stuff there. I'm in the key of D. I want to know what the 1, 4, 5, or the 3 main chords that go together in the key of D. I got the D chord here, and I can just look to the left and to the right, and I can see it's A is the 5 chord, and the 4 chord is G, and so on, all the way. Obviously, in guitar, we tend to stick to these major keys right in here, but you can go through flat keys. Now, we've got minor keys as well. So I look underneath, and this is A minor. It's the relative minor key to the major key of C. If I want the 1, 4, 5, I just look again to the left, 4 chord, to the right, the 5 chord. The 3 main chords in the key of A minor are going to be A, E, and D. By the way, just a side note, it's very common in a key to use for the 5 chord to change that to a 5-7 with a 7th chord. It just gives it a little more power to go back to that home chord. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is it's a good tool to help you with changing to another key. And this is particularly valuable for if you're playing guitar and you're singing, or you have somebody else who's singing, and you're in a key. Let's say you're playing a song in the key of C, and it's just too high or too low. So what you would do is you look at the circle of fifths and consider, first of all, changing to a key either to the left or to the right. Going to the right will bring it up a fifth. Now, that might be quite a bit of a jump. If you want to go to the left, you go down a fourth. That might be a little too low. So what I would do at that point is I'd go down to the F, play the same chords using the 3 chords in the key of F. Say the song is is C, F, and G, right? The 1, 4, and 5 in the key of C. Well, going down the key of F, I look and I say the 5 chord is a C, the chord to the right, and the 4 chord is a B flat. So I'd go. There we go. Now, what I'd also probably do at that point is I'd probably use a capo. If it's a little too low, I'd start refining it, going up and down. Most likely what I do in this case, this is now we're getting practical, is I would go up a key and then sing an octave lower. In other words, I'm not really going up. I'm raising the key here on the circle of fifths, but my voice is actually going down. I'm singing an octave lower. So it's, and then I start using the capo to bring it up. The reason is because going from the key of C to G, the chords are easier. And I'm not going to be dealing with things like bar chords, B flat, that kind of thing. Okay, and then finally, it helps to demystify key signatures. So the way the circle of fifths work, you start with the key of C, there's no sharps or flats. Then every time you go to the right, you add a sharp. So how many sharps are in the key of G? I look at the circle of fifths. C is none. To the right, G, that's 1. That's 1 sharp. How many sharps are in the key of A? Well, let's see. I got the key of C, none. Key of G, 1. Key of D, 2 sharps. Key of A is going to be 3 sharps. Let's see. Let's go the other way, flats. How many flats are in the key of F? I'll go left 1, 1 flat. The key of B flat, 2 flats, and E flat, so on. Again, we don't tend to use a lot of flat keys in playing guitar. But if you ever need it, circle of fifths can be a kind of a quick way to figure out what you're dealing with. So that's all I have right now. I'm trying to hit on what I consider the most important things and not all little side things that I can derive from the circle of fifths. But if you think of any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. And I'll go on to the next question. Okay, I'm checking over just to make sure everything looks fine, but it looks like everything's working. This is the next question. I have trouble finding the correct strings with my pick. What can I do to get better at this? So this applies to everybody, and you can always get better at picking. One of the things I do is an exercise called string mapping with students, and it works great to help train your hand, your right hand, to get to the right string with your pick, even without looking. So here's how it works. It's a great exercise for anyone at any level, but it's the kind of thing you practice a little bit at a time. First of all, I usually warm up. Now I'm working with the right hand, so I'll just warm up and start with the 6th string, and then go on to the 5th string, and so on. I'm just getting comfortable where all the strings are, and go all the way to the 1st string and then come back down. Take your time, go nice and slow, relax, keep your right hand relaxed. Don't worry about anything in the left hand. If you don't want the full sound, you can do this. I like to hear the note because then I know if I'm hitting the right string. I can, very quickly hear if I miss a string. That's kind of a warm-up, and I recommend just, spending 20, 30 seconds on that. Now, for the actual string mapping exercise, go ahead and pick the 1st string and just kind of get used to where it is. It's okay to look at this point. Now, I'm going to have you jump from the 1st string to the 3rd string. So you start here, and then just pick the 3rd string. So it's okay to look again. Take your time. Do that a few times. Slowly. Go on to the next set, we'll call it. The next set will be, let's say 1 and 5. There's no exact orders of this, but 1 and 5. That's going to be a little harder because it's a little farther, right? Okay. A few times. So you spend about 20, 30 seconds on this and just go to different strings, like 4th string, and so on. 6th string. Always go back to the 1st string each time. You're gauging the distance between the strings. You're training your hand to recognize the difference. So the final step, which is what I consider the magic step, you're going to do it without looking. So now I'm going to do the 1st string and the 3rd string. There. I knew that didn't sound right. There we go. Now I'm going to do the 1st string and the 5th string. So you got the idea, huh? And just spend, 10, 20 seconds on that. Don't try and get it perfect. And do that a little bit each day. The real key here is to just keep coming back at that. And little by little, your hand will learn the distance between the strings. Try and keep your hand close to the strings. Don't do this, which is exactly what I used to do when I first started. And see how far my hand is from the string? Keep it right here. That is so much easier. And it's much less confusing for your hand. You're going to train your hand much quicker if you keep a nice close distance to the strings when you're doing that. So little by little, your hand will just start connecting with your brain and basically create a map in your mind of the distance of what it feels like. And you won't even have to think about it anymore. But it's a gradual step-by-step process. And it's not a straight line up. Some days it seems to go better than others. That's just the way learning works. But you will notice it'll get easier and easier over time. And it makes it a lot more fun to play, quite honestly. So that's why I recommend it for everybody. Even if you've been playing for a while, practicing that a little bit just makes it more fun to play. You feel more confident and your hand just goes to the right place faster. Let's get the next question. When my guitar starts sounding dull or dead, how can I tell whether the problem is strings or whether the guitar needs a setup adjustment? So, Larry, excellent question. And to be honest with you, it takes a little bit of experience to be able to discern the issues when the guitar's not sounding right. But I'll give you some guidelines that are things that you'll get better at over time. The strings are probably dead themselves, or they need a new set if the actual tone of the string just sounds dull. If the strings feel sticky or discolored, that's a good sign too. You can pretty well count on, if the strings have been on your guitar for 3-4 months, it's probably about time to change strings. For nylon strings, I do that a little more often. And by the way, particularly with nylon strings, I have to change the bass set almost twice as often as the treble set. It's just that they wear out faster. And it has to do with a variety of things, partly with how acidic your sweat is. The acid from your hand goes and corrodes the strings and makes them die, basically, go dull. Now, you're probably in a setup issue. It's probably a guitar setup issue if your strings are, the tone basically sounds good, but your guitar is now harder to play. What's happening is the strings are higher off the fretboard. You notice buzzing at certain frets that didn't before, and you work it around and your fingers look good on the left hand, so it's still buzzing. Now, if the action of strings is obviously higher or starts going lower and getting close to resting on the frets, that's a clear, easy sign. This is usually caused by changes in weather conditions, seasons, hot, cold, humidity, and the actual wood in the neck can shift up and down, and that's what causes the changes. And If you've had a change in seasons from hot to cold, it's suspect. That's suspect that the neck needs an adjustment. The bigger takeaway for this is that you can't always solve the guitar sounding not good by just changing the strings. You have to use a little more discernment. And it really helps to have access to a professional like in a guitar shop or a repair shop that can check over your guitar if it's not sounding right. And of course, always take into account how you're playing. If you're doing a new song and it's buzzing a lot, it might be you just haven't gotten your fingers in the right place yet. Okay. And again, if you think of any questions related to this, please put them in the chat and I will start on those in a minute. Take a quick look to make sure nobody's saying, hey, what's going on? Yep, so far I don't see anybody saying they can't hear me. But please let me know if the sound's not right. What is the preferred type of guitar to learn the concepts you teach? A traditional nylon string guitar or a newer hybrid nylon string guitar with a neck similar to an acoustic guitar? The short answer, Tim, is either will work just fine for everything I do in my course. And with the nylon string guitar, I think it's more important to find what you're comfortable with at this point. I think the hybrid type guitar can be a little easier on the hands for a lot of people. It's a flatter neck and usually a little easier to get your hands around. The only time this will matter is if you eventually move to more flamenco-specific techniques like rasgueados and golpes and precise right-hand movements for flamenco. And then you kind of need either a nylon string guitar or even better, the flamenco guitar, which is made for flamenco guitar. It has a tap plate here so I don't dent or actually break through the top of my guitar, as well as the strings are far enough apart to easily get your fingers between them. And that's usually the difference between the hybrid guitars. The neck is such that the strings are closer together, like an acoustic guitar. It makes it easier to bar chord, but harder to get the right hand in between the fingers for fast finger picking. So that flamenco thing's certainly down the road and that's a separate conversation for later. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would go with what guitar seems the most fun for you to play, what inspires you to play every day. That will make the biggest difference in the long run. Next question. Will the guitars that are just sitting around in their cases get ruined? How long can they just sit there in their case? Well, the good news to me is that your guitars are actually in pretty good shape if they're sitting there in their case. I wouldn't worry about it. The one thing you have to keep in mind is humidity. And it depends on where you're at. Guitars are made of very fine, thin layers of wood, and they're affected by humidity in the air, and they can expand and contract. You ideally want to aim for about 45 to 55% humidity, roughly. If your climate has stable humidity, you probably don't have to worry about it. If you're in a very dry climate, hot Arizona, deserty type area, you really want to, or if you're running the heating a lot or the air conditioner, this can also create a very dry environment. And you probably want to get a inexpensive humidifier and put it in the guitar case. They're really fairly inexpensive, and they're just little things that you put a little bit of water and you keep in your case. It keeps the humidity at a certain level. In the case is best because you have a confined environment. By the way, some people, I've never tried this, but I've heard they put a slice of an apple in the case, and as it dries out, I don't know, it sounds messy to me. I'd just get a $8 humidifier kind of thing. I'm in an environment where I actually have a device that tells me humidity, and I'm good. So I haven't had to worry about that. But I've had a lot of students that we've talked about that. Of course, avoid storing your guitar in places with extreme temperature changes. Back of your trunk, attic kind of thing. Out in the garage where there's no control of the temperature just fluctuates wildly. That goes without saying. Okay, so we got that. Good question. Take good care of your guitar. Ironically, the more expensive your guitars, the more delicate they generally are, and they're more susceptible to the issues with humidity. But for the most part, you're good. Keep them in the case. They're safe. Okay, and the first question on the chat for today is, Lee is asking, can you assist with finding bossa nova lessons? There are a lot of online courses. I did a quick search since you were kind enough to post it ahead of time, and boy, there's no lack of bossa nova. 3 that got my attention are, one, there was a free one that was on a Paul David's website, and I admire Paul as both a guitar player and a teacher, so I would take his word for it. It's a free lesson, by Dominic Miller, Complete Beginner's Guide. How to Play Bossa Nova Guitar, Dominic Miller's Complete Beginner Guide. And by the way, I'll put these links in the show notes. They'll come out in a few days. But you can always do a web search too. Dominic Miller's Complete Beginner's Guide. That should do it. Bossa Nova. Get that word in there. The other is Udemy has very inexpensive courses, and there's one called Bossa Nova Guitar for Beginners. It's like $20. And generally speaking, I like to give you reviews so you can look at the reviews and see. It's got 4 stars. I like 5 stars, but it's probably a good just for beginning starting. And then there's a YouTube channel called Bossa Nova Guitar that's, at least in the forums, have gotten people saying they're good. It's good lessons and really easy to follow, real nice resource. And it's free, YouTube. It's called Bossa Nova Guitar. It's a YouTube channel. So again, I'll put the link in the show notes, but you can just search on YouTube, Bossa Nova Guitar, and you'll probably find that channel right away. I want to show you I'm not a bossa nova player, but I got this one favorite lick that I really enjoy playing, and I'm going to show it to you. Or actually, I could play a little bossa, but this is by far my favorite. There, I'm trying to play it straight with no variations. So I'm playing a D minor 9 chord in the left hand. It's actually not that hard of a chord for a jazzy chord. It's the 2 fingers on the 5th fret of the 2nd and 3rd string, and then my 3rd finger reaches over to the 5th string on that same 5th fret. And then I got my 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's very manageable, especially if you just take it a little at a time. Yeah, you'll find it's not really that hard, even though it might be the first time you try it. Then in my right hand, it's that bossa nova groove, and this is a fairly basic bossa nova groove, and I'll do it without the chord. So a thumb and fingers on each string, and they're each on a separate string. So I'm starting on the 5th string with my thumb, and the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string with my fingers. So first, let's see, I pick all the strings together. Oh, I have to play the chord to hear it. So it's all together, and 1 bass, all together, ba ba, bass up, bass up, bass up, da da. Okay, and I can put a graph of that in the show notes when they come out. Now, one more little thing that I like to add is an alternating bass note. So that's in the left hand here. What I'm doing, let me quickly show you up close. Left hand here, watch, on the 5th fret to the 5th string to the 6th string. Bass, bass, bass. Change, change. let's just make it a very simple bass line. Okay, that's my bossa nova lick. I won't even call it a lesson. That was hopefully just more of an inspiration. But again, I'll put the actual pattern and some kind of tab or notation on the show notes. I'm sure that will help. Now, let's go over to the chat and see what we got. Man, I swear these text is getting smaller. Maybe it's my eyes. Probably is, huh? Okay, let's take a look. Thank you for doing this. You're very welcome, David. I'm trying not to look at my fretting at all or very little. I'm getting pretty good at that, but it comes to bar chords like B minor or F sharp major or minor. Any tips? Well, yeah, David, the bar chords, there's other problems besides looking at your guitar with those bar chords. Those are certainly some of the more difficult bar chords. And B minor is one of the first that people learn, which is very valuable, as well as F. My main tip, I'm trying to synthesize. I do a lot of things with students to help them not to be able to have to look at their hands. But one of the things is just this gradual process that I was talking about with the pick. It's the same idea. You make the chord, take it off, look, make the chord. So I made a partial bar, B minor. However, if you're doing the full bar, any way you make it is fine. Take it off, and then try to do it without looking. Take it off. You might have to look a little bit and do it again. And just do that every day for 10, 20 seconds. Then pick a different chord. F sharp. Now start by looking. Now, what a good next thing to do is to try to go between two chords, because often when we play, the issue is we're not playing from scratch. We're moving from one chord to another, so you're practicing that movement. So I'm going B minor, and I'm not going to look to F. You'll notice you got that first finger there, and that really helps. That gives you an anchor to figure out the distance there. And you want to know that. So you practice that. Don't let it... Now, make it harder, I'm going to go to a chord where I have to shift. F, I'm going to shift up 2 frets. So I'd probably have to look first a few times. So practice the different movements without looking. Start by looking, do little at a time. Don't spend 10 minutes on this in one sitting. Just a little bit at a time, and just keep coming back at it, whittling away, chipping away at it. You'll see over time your fingers will get more confident. They'll just know where to go. Next question. By the way, if you can start your questions with the word question, it really helps. It helps me see which one's a question, which is just a comment, so I can go a little faster. So what's the circle? What's that circle, and how can I use it for writing songs? So that's called the circle of fifths. And in writing songs, the two valuable aspects of what I just described are, let me go back to, I'll show you my screen. So for writing songs, this helps me to look very quickly what are the main chords in that key. So if I'm writing a song and it's in the key of C, I know the F and G chord are the main chords I'm going to be using in addition to other chords. I also can see very quickly if I want to change into the minor, which is the relative minor key. So the minor key is underneath each of the major keys. This is the major key, this is the major key, and the minor key is directly under it. So if I'm in the key of C, and I want to go on and kind of modulate to the minor version of that, I can see I'm in the key A minor, and the 5 chord is the E, and the 4 chord is the D. That would probably be the most important aspect. Also, when I'm writing music, it does help me to very quickly know what the key signatures are. Ideally, you want to memorize that if you're writing songs, but this is a tool that will help you. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. This is a tool that will help you see the key signatures very quickly. So again, this is what I've said earlier, is that you just add a sharp as you go up to the right, and you go to the left or down the keys, you add a flat. So the key signature for D is going to be 2 sharps, 1, 2. The key signature for E is going to be 4 sharps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Those are some of the things that help me with writing songs with the circle of fifths. Question: in your site, do you have exercises to help with finger speed and memory? Absolutely. In my course, there's graded exercises. There's a whole section on that, but I also integrate them into the step-by-step lessons. And then we do something called guitar sessions. There are new lessons every month based around a song or a particular concept. Yeah, it's 5 progressive lessons in a week. And I often include some exercises in those that'll help you with the song as well as get faster and smoother with playing, particularly left hand, but there's right hand exercises as well. Can you explain how Naldo Rodriguez plays his guitar? His fingerstyle arrangements are incredible. I don't know who Naldo Rodriguez is, so I couldn't answer that. I'm going to look it up later. I'm curious now, but I'm afraid I couldn't help with that. I'm in Israel, and I hope you won't have to run a bomb shelter in the middle. No, I hope you don't. Oh. Okay, Rogelio has a question. Are the major and minor chords the same shape on the low E and A strings? Rogelio, if you can elaborate on that question. I'm not sure what you're asking. If you could ask another way. So I'm going to answer the question in case you're asking about bar chords, the major and minor chords shapes are similar but different depending on if it's a 5th string root or 4th string root. I mean, a 6th string root and 4th and 5th string root. So I categorize bar chords by the ones that have the root or the name of the chord on the 6th string. Here's the most common example, the major bar chord, and bar chords that have the root on the 5th string. So here's a common example, the C bar chord. The name is right there. So the forms of the bar chords on the 6th string, this is major, minor, 7th chord, and minor 7th chord. Those are the 4 most common chords. And on the 5th string, we have major. Some people call it an A form because it's basically an A form with a bar, and they call this the E form. Minor, you can see it's similar to the major, but it's different. And then we have the 7th form. I've got the 3rd finger and the pinky there with this 2nd string being covered by the bar. And then the minor 7th, just bring that 2nd string down a fret. And those are the 4 main chords on the bar. If that's not what you're asking, please just elaborate a little bit on the question. I'd be glad to help you. Question: are your live Q&As also in your site to watch again in the future? Yes, absolutely. And I will come out with also show notes and timestamps. So if you ask a question, you can get right to that question. Even if you're not on the live show, later you can go right to that timestamp and see the answer to your question. Great question. I didn't think to mention that. And I'll send an email to everyone on my email list with the link to that, so you don't have to go searching around for it. Question: I very much like using a thumb pick, but I have never tried finger picks and don't see a lot of players using finger picks. Any thoughts on this? Yes, David. I've tried finger picks and I did not like them at all. Now, when I say that, I've been playing 40 something years and I've tried them a few times thinking, oh, maybe I could come back to it. No. I find the thumb pick makes sense for me. I can get a little stronger, louder bass note, but the finger picks just seem to get in my way more than anything. I've seen a few professionals use them, but not many. I use my fingers, and I have slight nails on my fingers. They're not big, but they're enough to where when I hit the string, I get both a little nail and flesh, and it creates a little more crispy sound, and I can feel the string. And that's the way most classical and flamenco guitar players play. They would never use finger picks on their fingers and cover up their fingers. I think finger picks are mostly used in certain styles of blues and I've only seen them in some styles of blues, and it creates a certain sound that when they hit the string that is a little different than either your fingers or a pick. Rogelio says I answered the right question. You're welcome. You're very welcome, Rogelio. I'm getting good at this. Would you try the Abasi Cordoba classical guitar? Lemonless, I don't know what that is. I know Cordoba and I know classical guitar, but I don't know that particular model. I don't have any information that would be of use. What are the basics to learning triads on the first, second, and third strings? The basics are, let's see. There's several triads, and I'm going to go to a closer view so you can see this more clearly, that I like to use. And I like to use them both in terms of theory to be able to see the notes that I want to play maybe in a melody, but I use them as what I call baby chords. So here's the first one. I'm doing a partial bar across the second and third string. No, first and second string, and then I reach my second finger over to the third string on the fourth fret. So this is a G chord, and it's a partial or a baby triad based on that full G bar chord. You see, it's just the top three strings. So I find it very useful, both in terms of being able to visualize what notes, single notes are part of that chord, as well as for using for individual little riffs and things. That's the major form. The complement to that, which would be the fifth, based on the fifth string root major chord, would be this chord. So that's the first finger on the third fret of the first string, and then the third finger and the pinky next to each other, that's on the second and third strings, the fifth fret. And again, it's based on this. It's the top three strings of this chord, or the A form bar chord, which is commonly called. So those are the two major chords. Now let's talk about the minor chords. The minor versions of the same G chord would be up a string. No. That's the full bar, and the minor is just these three notes. So it's down a fret to make, that's the third of the chord, a minor. And the minor chord that complements the C would be C minor. Again, we go down one fret right here. The third goes down here. Major, minor. Major and minor. Those are the main forms, with the exception of one more, which kind of sticks out. This, I call it a D chord form. So it's based on the D chord, and you just move it up. So with those 5 forms, that usually covers everything I want to play with triads. They aren't the only forms. You can do the D minor, which I just don't use that often, and more exotic forms like Well, the seventh forms, I just don't use them that much. These I use all the time. Okay, let me know if you think of anything else you want to ask about that. Let's get back to my face for what it's worth. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I see. We'll practice those, and we'll need, yeah, of course, it takes practice, and watch the replay. Any more questions? I don't see any more today. I think that's all we have for today. Thank you all for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I will be back the second week of next month for RGS Live. Feel free to send me your questions ahead of time. You can go on my website, or you can also send me an email directly from the website. In any case, I look forward to having you come back again and answering some more of your questions. Bye for now.